How we doing, everybody? Game week 9 predictions. Now, this is a bit weird, I think, what we've got going on at the moment, because obviously lots of games to be played. James, there's going to be a few videos that we're going to have to do probably after the World Cup, where we're going to have to predict like 20 games to make up for the extra games that have been missed and postponed, obviously because of the Queen's passing and all sorts of other stuff. But let's take a quick look back at last week. We both went 5-5. I'm not going to keep the people in suspense. We shared the same opinions on 4 of the games, which we got correct, and then on the ones that we didn't. James, I managed to get the Forest-Fulham game correct. I had Fulham winning that one, pat myself on the back for that one. However, you were able to pull that one back and get the game back on me for getting the Everton victory, and I put the Everton-West Ham one as a draw. But 5-5, my overall record, 34-36. I'm 2 correct games off breaking 500, which I'm not going to lie, based on this season so far, I think hitting 500 is pretty good.
I want to put out.
The work
I want to put out. I agree. I can crawl up on Jack a little bit more.
Yeah, look, you're still. It's 4 games behind, and again, the way these averages are rolling, it might be 5, it might be 6 going forward. But anyway, without any further ado, let's get into these game week 9 predictions. James, we are not pulling any punches to begin with, and I'm going to start with you because you are, of course, the expert on this game. At the Emirates, at Arsenal, North London derby. Spurs coming to town. Hit me. What have you got for this one?
Oh my days, Jack. A fixture at home that I really enjoyed because Arsenal in the last 11 games at home in the Premier League have not lost to Tottenham. I feel like with us, like when we play against Tottenham at home, it's like no matter the situation, no matter what's going on, we've had bad times, we somehow come together and like able to defeat Spurs. But we know what Spurs are like this year. It's the Antonio Conte Spurs. But my opinion, it's still Spurs, Jack. You know, yes, we've seen different parts of their game. Harry Kane is always going to be a threat. We know what Human Strong brings to the game. Kulusevski. But Arsenal at home, we're very solid against Tottenham. But my big thing is, it's not really about Harry Kane, Jack. It's about Human Son and how he affects the game. Because to me, if Tottenham are going to be as effective, it's going to be obviously Harry Kane dropping it. But Tottenham, I don't expect them to, first of all, hit us, like just go straight at us. I think they're going to sit back, be cautious, hit us on the break. And we know how devastating they are on the break. We know that amazing combo of Kane and Son. Kane dropping deep, Son spinning in behind. And if like Son can't spin in behind and get them opportunities on the counter, that's where for me Tottenham can be good. But I'm going to sit on the fence here, and I'm going to go. It's going to be a 2-2 draw.
Damn it, man. I'm so mad. I've got the exact same thing.
Oh, my
so
days. You know what? Arsenal win, but TT. Arsenal win. As I said, I'm always praying for an Arsenal win and the Spurs loss.
Ah, man. Okay. What are you sticking? Are you sticking with 2-2, or are you going to change?
I'm going to stick with 2-2.
Yeah, no, good for you. Game Look, I echo a lot of the stuff you just said there, James. This is going to be Conte. This is going to be, a frustrating game, I think, to watch for Arsenal. I think Arsenal will dominate is a strong word, but I think Arsenal will have the most possession, shots on target, passes, you name it. I think they're going to hit all those stats. But again, with Spurs, the difference makers that Spurs have in terms of being able to convert chances, I do believe are better than Arsenal's attackers. So if there are 2 shots on target for Spurs, can I see them scoring both? Yeah, quite possibly. I really can. And again, it's just about limiting those, and it's a game that's going to be played in moments. We know with Antonio Conte and the squad he's kind of got there, again, this could be quite, we haven't had club football for a couple of weeks now. Fans are going to be, aggy. There's going to be a lot of energy in that stadium. Maybe some sending offs might happen. You never know. But to me, 2-2, Arsenal will probably feel like they should win the game. But again, with Spurs, I just think that they do have that X factor of, even if off a few chances, they can still punish teams and bury you. It's a tricky one. I wanted to go with Spurs. I can't deny it. I did want to go with Spurs, but I do just think on balance, this is probably, I think you're right.
Yeah, just like you, I'm the opposite way. I really want to go with Arsenal because I feel like just our record against them is so good, but I don't know, Tottenham this year they're a little bit dodgy, so just say.
And also, when the hands get shaken at full time, Antonio Conte better look Mikel Arteta in the eye, or else they might be in trouble. Anyway, moving on to a slightly less appealing game. Sorry for the fans of these teams out here. Bournemouth are at home against Brentford. And again, James, I'm going with another draw. It's a little bit of a risky kind of thing that I'm doing this week. I've got 2 draws straight out the gate, 0-0, Bournemouth and Brentford. I think Bournemouth are going to continue to try and be hard to beat. And I think that with Brentford as well, they're not quite the same proposition as they are when they're at home. And we know that this Brentford team are built quite, brilliantly so to beat teams that they're better than, beat teams on the break, do that kind of thing with the likes of an Ivan Toney. Again, Bournemouth are not one of those teams. So I just think that if they can both be defensively solid, Bournemouth will take a draw. And away from home, I think even against Bournemouth, I think Brentford are happy taking a draw here. So 0-0 for me in this one. What have you got, James?
Jack, you're correct to the point of view that it screams last game of match of the day.
Right.
It's that 0-0 draw born. You might have a player hit the post here or there, but it's not that eventful. But I see it different. I can see Brentford going. I'm taking all 3 points. I like what they've been able to do. Yes, they got humbled against Arsenal, rightfully so. But again, I just feel like they have a bit more quality in the. Bournemouth to me is like, where are they really going? This season. I think they just newly got a manager. I'm not fully sure about that, but I feel it might be just too soon for them. Yes, they've had a break. Yes, they've had times to recharge, but I'm going to go for the quality of Brentford, and I'm going to say 2-0, Jack.
2-0 to Brentford. Okay, I like it. James, you are going again. Palace at home against Chelsea. That's a fun one. I think I like that one a lot at Selhurst Park. Who have you got winning that one? Drawing.
It's a game when like you look historically, Chelsea have really dominated. Bournemouth, Crystal Palace in the last 26 games against Chelsea, Jack, have only managed 4 wins, and also Chelsea won 20 games. Now it's been highly dominated by Chelsea. Maybe this one of them sides that Chelsea favor themselves against, but I like Crystal Palace. I like Crystal Palace a lot, and like especially what they offer. Remember last season, Chelsea got the victory, but in a very, very tight game. I think it was like a late it was a late goal. Actually, it was a 93rd minute goal from Christian Pulisic that won the game. But I like Crystal Palace quality in it's Graham Potter's first game, but I'm gonna say it's gonna be a bit of a surprise, and let's go 2-1 Crystal Palace.
Yeah, James, look, I had 2-1 Crystal Palace written down for the longest time, and I did really, really want to go for it. But again, there is that precedent, like you've talked about. This is a fixture, whether easily or not, Chelsea managed to get something done with. I do think that breath of fresh air from Graham Potter, regardless, we'll see how he does at this kind of level. Obviously, it's early days, but to me, I do just think that impressing the new manager, individual quality in the team that's slightly higher up than Palace is, even though we know they have talent in certain areas of the pitch as well. For me, I'm going 2-1. I'm going to Chelsea. And again, can I see another 93rd minute? I don't know. Trevor Chalobah header? Yeah, maybe. Moving on to the next game. Fulham at home against Newcastle. 1-1. Again, I feel a little bit ridiculous this week. I've got, out the gate, I've got 4 games. I've picked 3 of them to be draws. So again, that's a risky strategy, James. You might pick up some games on me here, but look, Newcastle love draws this season. I don't know what to tell you. They're kind of this big whole thing of like, we're kind of trying to be as much as we can be unbeaten. And it's like, well, yeah, but being unbeaten's fine, but being unbeaten's a hell of a lot better if you're winning games instead of drawing games. This Fulham side are not to be messed with as well. I think they had a great transfer window. I think Marcus Silva is now set up in a really, really nice spot with talent and players that he wants in certain position to be effective, especially at Craven Cottage. Now, again, I do think this Newcastle team is, a strike of a match away from just exploding and starting to challenge for those 5th and 6th positions in the Premier League table in the next 2 years, maybe even the next 18 months or so, who knows. But for me, I'm going to just go with 1-1 here. I think Fulham are too good, especially at home, and Newcastle, James, absolutely love a draw. So that's what I'm going with. What have you got?
You're right there. Newcastle is a bit of a false narrative this year. We talked about how well they played, but I think that they've only won 1 game this season so far. So maybe Eddie Howe might be under a little bit of pressure, which I don't think he should have to kind of, relax with him. But Fulham, Jack, been so impressive since they came into the Premier League. I remember the last few promotions that they've had has been very, very underwhelming. But like what they have right now with Marco Silva and like Mitrovic, it seems special at this moment of time. I'm gonna flip it and I'm gonna say 1-0 Fulham.
Oof, I like it. That's a bold one. I like that. James, coming to you again. Anfield hosting Brighton, a Graham Potterless Brighton as well. Who have you got doing that one? Liverpool not at their best so far this season. Brighton have been doing well, but that was under a different sort of leadership. What do you think here?
Interesting.
Also, is Adam Lallana player manager? Is that still happening?
I'm not fully sure about that.
You're gonna have to double check that.
You might need to look at that.
You pick the result
as we go. But I feel like Liverpool, yes, it hasn't been the greatest start to the season. And the reason why it hasn't been great, because the ambition is to match Manchester City, and the rhetoric to beat them is to win every single game. Liverpool have been disappointing this year, but in the past few games, Jack, they've been picking up victories. They've been getting a little bit of confidence here or there. That, to me, that Newcastle game where like they got the 98-minute winner was massive for them. I feel like it would have helped them if they would have helped them if they didn't win there, but they were able to do. I'm going to say Liverpool winning this game, especially with the fact what's going on with Brighton. So I'm going to say 3-0 Liverpool, Jack.
3-0 Liverpool. Look, James, I like it. I'm not going to lie to you, mate. This one slipped under the radar. We've got Roberto De Zerbi is entering the Premier League. Obviously, had some time in the Italian league there with Palermo, Benevento, Sassuolo. More recently, was at Shakhtar Donetsk for a couple of years, but now is the manager of Brighton and Hove Albion. So I guess they saw something either at Sassuolo, who are obviously doing pretty well at the moment, and then Shakhtar Donetsk as well, for them to like what they see. So there's going to be a little bit of a kind of prove it factor there for that one. James, I got this one as 3, but I've got it 3-2. I just think that this will be a much better game. This Brighton team are a good team. And in the same way that obviously getting a new manager after a manager has gone that's been negative, it can be a positive thing. It can also be the same on the other way around. If you're doing well and then a new manager comes in as well, you want to kind of like double down on how well you've been playing to prove it to the new manager, right? So to me, I just think this game will be competitive. I can see Brighton scoring first. I can then maybe even see James Brighton scoring second, and then Liverpool thinking, right, we're at Anfield, we've got to get our act together, and then making a comeback of some description. So to me, I've got a closer game, but result-wise, the exact same as you. Southampton at home to Everton. One thing I think to Frank Lampard's credit over these first kind of 9 game weeks that we've seen has been, I think he's aware of what he's dealing with now. And maybe it took him a little longer than it should have for him to like fully understand the scale of what he's undertaking here at this Everton job. But James, this is one of the best defensive teams in the league. Results, okay, you do have to put the ball in the opposition net to actually win football matches. But in terms of like goals conceded, chances conceded, like certainly big chances conceded and stuff, Everton are not high up on those lists at all. And I think Frank Lampard knows what he has to have. I'm going to say this again. I know I say this most weeks. I like Connor Cody, James Tarkowski. I do. These are 2 Premier League captain level players. Okay, they're not the elite centre-backs in the league, but if they can build a nice, strong partnership, right, with some decent midfielders in there as well, and then Calvert-Lewin coming back, there are some kind of burgeonings of maybe a team that aren't flirting too much with relegation at this point. To me, they just have a teensy bit more than this Southampton team, who again, I don't know what I'm going to get from week to week. So again, I see not very many goals, and I can just see Everton sneaking this one 1-0. Who have you got in that one, James?
Jack, when you look at it, you mentioned Newcastle being draw specialists. Everton have also been draw specialists. In the 7 games that they've played, they've managed to pick up 4 draws. It hasn't been like the way people talk about Everton's like they've been like horrible. I get it for the expectations, probably Everton fans, that they want to be like part of the Premier League elite, but it hasn't been like a horrible start to the season. They've only lost 2 games, and to be fair, one of them was really close against Chelsea. But again, you mentioned like what's going on with Southampton. Always a team you talk about keeping their head above water in the Premier League, like year in and year out. But I feel like with Everton, I can see something building there. Now, it might not take them to a top 4 spot, but there's something going on there.
Right.
And I think that this might be, weirdly enough, bit of a competitive goal-scoring game. So I'm going to go for 3-1 Everton, Jack.
Oof, okay, I like
it's
it.
Also, Southampton, when they do go for it, they can be entertaining.
Oh, absolutely. Ralph Hasenhüttl is no stranger to, hard work and creating chances and also conceding chances too. We know that for sure. James, coming to you again. We're going to East London, West Ham. They're welcoming Wolves to town. What have you got in that one?
Oof, West Ham versus Wolves. Now, I look at it from the point of view of what's going to happen with Diego Costa. He's had a bit of time off, but again, during that time, has he even got to play games?
He's had a lot of time off.
He's especially during the international break. Yep. Is he fit? Is he ready to go? You mentioned with West Ham this year. They've been doing well in Europe, but it's been a quite slow, poor start to the season, picking up a lot of L's here or there. Both teams, to me, lack that going forward. If I'm being honest, let's say Lucas Paqueta can get going, maybe that can be a big bonus for them. But I'm going to sit on the fence again and let's go 1-0 against Wolves and West Ham.
I'm going to take West Ham here. I'm going to take the goal, just the 1-0. Again, you know my thoughts. I'm a big fan of Gianluca Scamacca. I think he's great, and I think that when he starts starting games and getting a run of games, building relationships with fullbacks, with midfielders, with Lucas Paqueta, with wingers, etc., I do think that he will flourish into a great player. Now, again, I said this from the get-go. I don't think this is a great fit for Gianluca Scamacca. This wouldn't have been my pick of teams. I'm glad he was brave enough to just go for it. But again, this wouldn't David Moyes and West Ham. It wouldn't have really been my pick. But again, I think he has natural ability and talent to just override those things and still be a successful player. I just think that this West Ham team, from what they were doing last year, right, I just think that they can hit that again. David Moyes is that kind of manager where they can hit that again. The Rice-Souček partnership in the middle, right? Sturdy defenders, a reliable goalkeeper, the fullbacks, etc. To me, Wolves, the problem again. Kalacic, I think his name is Sasa Kalacic. That was such a shame with him and his injuries. It's really kind of a season-ending knee injury, and I was so excited for him going forward. That would have been so great. Diego Costa. He's not a man you would imagine needs to train his butt off to be a threat and be a game changer. A lot of his game is in the head. We know that. If he gets a couple of chances, he doesn't think, he just shoots, right? And obviously his problem as well, to his benefit, I guess, is getting under the skin of the opposition. Am I expecting him to come in firing? Absolutely not. Wolves have a really nice little team, actually, James. If you go position by position, there's talent. You can easily, if you're Bruno Lage, you can easily kind of get in there and try and develop a style of play which they will be able to execute. But again, most important position on the pitch, man who puts the ball in the goal. They are missing that elite level guy. They really, really are. And that's always going to be the biggest problem for Wolves. So again, I see them struggling. 1-0 to West Ham in that one for me. Glad we disagree on that one. I'm feeling good about that one, mate. However, moving along, and I think it's me again here. Manchester derby. Moving on to the Sunday games. This is going to be interesting because Manchester United have pulled it around, kind of. I'm not super convinced. I'm really not that we can call it pulled it around yet. I think there are going to be ups and downs over the course of the season with this team, but I've seen enough from what Erik ten Hag's been able to do and this Manchester United team has been able to do, and over the course of time as well, the personalities that have left that dressing room, the guys that have come in as well, the style of play Erik ten Hag wants to do. And again, James, one thing I think we've seen from Erik ten Hag, he knows that if he's the worst team in a matchup, he can play a different style of football and it still be effective. However, with all that said, this is Erling Haaland, this is Pep Guardiola, this is the Etihad, right? I do see Manchester United getting a couple on the break. I'm seeing a goal from Rashford, maybe a goal from Sancho, maybe a header from Rafael Varane, I don't know. So I do have Man United scoring 2 goals, but I got Man City scoring 3. I think this will be a classic. I really, really do. We know the Ten Hag history with Pep Guardiola as well. But James, at home, I'm taking the best team, in my opinion, in the world and the best team in the league, certainly.
Again, Jack, you mentioned like another classic, and that's probably what I want to see. Can Manchester United go toe-to-toe with Man City from the point of view punch-to-punch, quality to quality? No. Because you do look, if you open the gates up and you give Erling Haaland and the rest of these man chances, they're gonna eat you guys. They're going to eat Manchester United up. But I like what Erik ten Hag brings. And you mentioned, has he turned around? Jack, to be fair, the first 2 games wasn't positive. But the last 4, Jack, they won all 4 of them. You know, and if you look at this from this point of view, people talk about how great Man City have been. Let's just say Manchester United are able to win. They have a game in hand on Man City, and like that will cut the gap to 2 points. And like they win that game in hand, they go ahead. So it's not a thing where like the gap is crazy between both teams points wise, but maybe on the pitch it might be a different story. I like Manchester United. I think that they can bring it home, Jack.
Oh my God!
What it is? This
is why you're 4 points behind, going against Man City at home.
Drago, if he dies, he dies.
Oh my
God. They lose. There's something about Manchester United on the counter-attack that, especially against a Manchester City team, can be irresistible. You looked especially last season against Man City. I enjoyed 20 minutes of their performance overall and how they were able to like literally pen Man City up, like Man City back, and especially hit them in like certain areas. Jadon Sancho scored a great goal, but you can see the commitment to that team wasn't there last year.
Right.
I think that they could stay committed for a whole 90 minutes and they can pull off a victory here. So I'm going to say 2-1 Manchester United.
Oh my days.
Listen, if he dies, he dies. So let's go for it, Jack.
Look, mate, I respect it. I do. Look, one thing I will say, I've seen some social media stuff showing the clips of Lisandro Martinez against Erling Haaland and stuff. Guys, it's not the same Erling Haaland, especially in this kind of football match. We're not going to have Erling Haaland running 30 yards at Lisandro Martinez where he has time to position himself and be able to stop it. Erling Haaland's going to be in those pockets, and Lisandro Martinez is not going to be to do anything about it. I respect what you're saying, James. And James, hey, Man United have played 2 big games this year. Arsenal, Liverpool. They've won both those games. So listen, I'm not going to be too hard against you there, but I do think it's bold. I'll say that. You're going again, mate. Leeds at home against Aston Villa. Who have you got in that one?
Leeds at home against Aston Villa. Villa finally was able to get their victory. Gerrard has been put under a decent amount of pressure this year, and I felt that if maybe 1 or 2 games, if he would have, let's say, not picked up victories or like the draw he was able to get against City and obviously the win against Everton, that he would have been under pressure that he might not have been able to survive. But he has got the ship steady right now. Leeds have had a decent start to the season, but I'm gonna say Villa with their quality can go through here. So I'm going to say, let's go for 1-0 Aston Villa.
1-0 Aston Villa. I got 2-1 Leeds. I'm going to be the first one to put my hand up and say I think what we're seeing so far in 2022, at least the latter part of 2022, yeah, Jack, I think you were wrong about Jesse Marsch. Again, I'm not going to put Jesse Marsch up there with Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp, Antonio Conte and such the like, but for a guy who I didn't think would be able to achieve in the Premier League at all, I thought the Bundesliga might kind of be the limit of what he'd be able to do, especially with the structure of the Red Bull organisations around him as well. I'm going to say I've been pleasantly surprised by this Jesse Marsch Leeds United team. Taking over from Marcelo Bielsa was not an easy job, but again, I get the sense as well for some of these Leeds players that they're like, weight off their shoulders, no more Marcelo Bielsa. We can deal with this really charming, really funny, really nice American guy who does seem to know his stuff, right? So credit where credit's due on that one. Again, I'm not going to say Europa League, Conference League, etc., for this Leeds team, but at home, I can see them being perfectly competent against this underperforming Aston Villa team. They did get their win. That does scare me. They do have talent across the pitch, and James, with a team like Villa, when it clicks, it's going to click in a big way, but I'm going to bank on just the home advantage there for Leeds United. 2-1. Final game of the week, Leicester City, struggling Leicester City, are at home against Nottingham Forest. I'm going to say this is arguably the ideal match that you would want coming up if you're Brendan Rodgers. Newly promoted team, lots of turnover of personalities and personnel and staff and all sorts of, players and all sorts of stuff at Nottingham Forest. You're at home. All this kind of stuff is kind of, you feel like it's just coming together a little bit. But I think, James, this is going to be the final nail in the coffin for Brendan Rodgers. I can see a really, really disappointing 2-1 loss to Nottingham Forest here, and Brendan Rodgers will see you next time. So I've got Nottingham Forest 2, Leicester City 1. Who have you got in that one?
I feel like Brendan Rodgers will live to fight another day, Jack.
Ooh.
This is an OG classic fixture in like the Premier League, like from the point of view of like the late 90s. You remember how Leicester City, how big they were at the time, and even Nottingham Forest, football wise, especially in England, has always been a big club to a certain extent. But
Champions.
you mentioned with Leicester is that Spurs game. As I watched it, yes, Spurs won, I think 5-2 at the end, but yeah. 6-2 at the end. Goalkeeper didn't cover himself in glory, but Jack, there was a lot of positives from Leicester. And then on another day, if they take their chances, it's a completely different story. Spurs scores from set pieces. They get done. Leicester get done a number of times from set pieces, and Son just goes absolutely off.
Yep.
I think that at some point this issue going on with Leicester, something has to give, Jack. Because listen, you have Yuri Tielemans, James Maddison there, Ian Nacho, Jack. There's some really, really top level talented Premier League players there, and I think that they finally get something done. So I'm going to say this is going to be 3-1 to Leicester.
Ooh, 3-1, proper win. Yeah, look, I tend to lean on the side of, I think the front office have messed up their contract situation with a number of key players. Recruitment's been off as well, and again, I just think there's been nothing less motivating than looking at Leicester City coming into this season. But we will have to see, James. I'm going to double check this, but I'm pretty sure we differ on 7 games this week.
Ooh.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. James and I are differing on results in 7 of the 10 games this week. I'm ahead by 4. All James needs to do is get a couple of these right, and that gap becomes ever closer, guys. As per usual, a couple of you have been doing it, and I really appreciate it. I give you guys a lot of credit. Scroll down. Let us know what you think is going to happen this upcoming week. Obviously, we've been kind of, we're dehydrated from club football, but it's coming back with a vengeance. Drop a like on the video if you like what you've seen as well. James and I are 9 game weeks in. We've hit every single prediction so far, so long may that continue. While you're down there, hit the subscribe button too, hit the bell. You'll be notified for when we upload. James, anything else from you, mate?
Guys, hit that subscribe button, close to 1,000. Me and Jack will see you guys next time, and also comment down below and let us know what you guys think.
See you guys.